The demolition robot. Start with the machine that never had a seat to lose. Demolition robots, compact tracked machines with a hydraulic arm, famously built by Swedish specialists and now common worldwide, are operated by a person standing a few meters away wearing a belly box controller like the world's heaviest video game. No cab exists on the machine at all. And that is the entire point. These robots are built for the places where a human body is the weakest component. Inside buildings being gutted, where floors may not hold a full-size excavator, under structures that might collapse, in tunnels, in furnaces still radiating heat, and in the decommissioning of nuclear facilities, where the machine can work in radiation, no operator could survive. And do not mistake this for easy work. The operator reads the machine entirely from the outside, watching track slip, listening to the hammer, judging a weakening floor by eye, making 100 decisions a minute for a machine that cannot feel anything. Veteran demolition robot operators are as proud of their trade as any excavator man, and they will tell you the leash does not make the job simple, it makes it survivable. The teleoperated excavator. Next, the machine from every photo of this revolution. The excavator run from an office chair. The major manufacturers all build teleoperation systems. Caterpillar's is called Command, ranging from a portable console beside the pit to a permanent station in a building in another city. Real joysticks, real pedals, and a wall of screens fed by cameras on a machine that might be beyond the horizon. The machine carries the sensors and the muscle. The operator supplies everything else, and that substitution is harder than it sounds. Ask any veteran operator what they actually operate with, and they will tell you. The body. The shudder of the frame when a bucket bites rock. The engine note changing under load. The tilt in your inner ear on a slope. Teleoperation strips all of that away and replaces it with camera angles and telemetry, which is why manufacturers build entire training rooms full of these stations, where crews learn to develop a new sense, reading a 50-ton machine through a screen. Operators who make the transition describe it as learning to drive all over again with someone else's body. The ones who do discover the trade-off runs both ways. They lose the seat feel and gain the ability to hop between machines on different continents without leaving the room. The underground loader. Now the machine where remote control saves the most lives. Deep mines are among the most dangerous workplaces humanity has ever built, and the single most dangerous routine job in them has always been driving the loader into an unsupported tunnel immediately after blasting to scoop out the shattered rock. Today, systems like Caterpillar's Command for Underground, Sandvik's AutoMine, and Epiroc's Scooptrum Automation have transformed exactly that job. The giant low-slung underground loaders run their load haul dump cycles with the operator sitting in a surface office, sometimes supervising several machines at once, while the automation handles the driving between loading and dumping points. Read that again. The deadliest routine task in mining is now, at modern operations, performed by a machine whose operator is drinking coffee above ground. The skill did not disappear. The exposure did. The remote dozer. The bulldozer got the same treatment, and became the quiet workhorse of remote operation. Semi-autonomous dozing systems let a single operator at a remote station run push after push on a distant machine, and at the most advanced sites, switch between multiple dozers, commanding one to repeat a productive push pattern while taking manual control of another for the delicate work. The applications tell you why it matters. Dozers work the edges, the crests of waste dumps, the walls of coal stockpiles, ground that can shift, slip, or swallow a machine. Every one of those edge jobs used to put an operator's body on the worst ground on site. Now the machine takes the risk and the human keeps the judgment, multiplied across several machines per shift. Less glamorous than the driverless truck, and for the people who used to sit on those crests, arguably a bigger deal. The driverless haul truck. And now remove the human entirely, because the autonomous haul truck is the crown jewel of this revolution, and it started earlier than most people think. In 2008, at the Gabriela Mistral copper mine in Chile, Komatsu deployed the first commercial autonomous haulage system. 4 driverless electric haul trucks, navigating by GPS, guided by onboard controllers, watching for obstacles with radar and laser scanners. And understand what autonomous means here. This is not a truck improvising its way through a mine. A central fleet management system assigns every truck its route, speed, and destination. The trucks report continuously. Loaders, dozers, and the human-driven vehicles on site all carry transponders, so the system knows where every machine and person is at every second. If anything unexpected enters a truck's path, the truck stops. It does not get impatient, does not get distracted at hour 11 of a shift, and does not roll a 300-ton machine because of a moment's fatigue. Today, Komatsu's system alone runs around 150 trucks across 9 sites, with over 3.5 billion tons hauled. Caterpillar's Command for Hauling went commercial in 2013, and at the Boddington mine in Australia, it created the world's first open-pit gold mine running a fully autonomous haul fleet. The business case is brutal arithmetic. At one major operation, Each autonomous truck ran about 700 hours more per year than its human-driven equivalent, at roughly 15% lower cost per ton. But the number that matters most comes 2 machines from now. Hold on. The robot train. Because the revolution did not stop at the pit gate. The ore that the driverless trucks dump has to reach the coast. And in Australia's Pilbara region, it now travels there on the world's first fully autonomous long-distance heavy-haul railway. Rio Tinto's auto-haul program put kilometers-long iron ore trains, thousands of tons of locomotive and loaded cars, onto the Outback main line with empty cabs, monitored remotely from the city of Perth. A machine that big, moving that fast, across distances that long, with no crew aboard, was considered science fiction within living memory. Today, it is a scheduled daily operation, and it completes a chain worth pausing on. At these operations, the drill that prepares the blast, the truck that hauls the ore, and the train that carries it to port can all run without a single human on board. From the rock face to the ocean, hands-free. The control center mine. Which brings us to the machine that is not a machine at all, the Remote Operations Center. In the late 2000s, Rio Tinto launched a program with a name that says everything, the Mine of the Future, and built its centerpiece in Perth, an office control floor from which the company's iron ore mines, some 1,500 kilometers away in the desert, are monitored and managed. Pit operations, plant control, the drills, the truck fleets, the trains, coordinated from a city where workers go home to their families every night. That detail is bigger than it sounds. Remote mining runs on fly-in, fly-out labor. Workers flown to desert camps for weeks at a stretch, a lifestyle so hard on families and mental health that it is studied as its own occupational hazard. The remote operations model quietly attacks that too. The job that used to require 2 weeks in a camp becomes a commute across town. By 2017, the autonomous fleet was moving about a quarter of everything hauled across those mines. In January 2018, it passed its 1 billionth ton. By 2026, the fleet has grown past 250 autonomous vehicles, the largest of its kind on Earth. And now the number I asked you to hold. Across all those years and all those tons, the company reports 0 injuries attributed to the autonomous fleet. 0. In an industry where haul truck accidents have historically been among the deadliest categories of mining incidents. Whatever you think about automation and jobs, that statistic is the reason no mining executive on Earth is turning this technology off. The cabless truck. And the final machine shows you where this ends. In 2019, truck maker Scania unveiled a concept called the AXL, a heavy autonomous tipper truck with no cab whatsoever. Not an empty seat, no seat. No windshield, no doors, no steering wheel, just a smooth machine face where 100 years of truck design says a human should be. Concept vehicles are promises rather than products, but the AXL states the destination out loud. Once the operator has moved from the machine, to the pit edge, to the office, to another city, the next step is machines designed, from the first sketch, around their own emptiness. The cab, the most expensive, most protected, most human part of every heavy machine ever built, becomes optional. That is not an upgrade to the operator's seat. That is its extinction event, in some corners of heavy industry at least. So line up all 8 one last time. The demolition robot, human 3 meters away, holding the leash. The teleoperated excavator, human in an office chair, learning to feel through a screen. The underground loader, the deadliest job in mining, moved above ground. The remote dozer, 1 operator, several machines, nobody on the bad ground. The driverless haul truck, 300 tons, no driver, 0 injuries. The robot train, rock face to ocean, hands-free. The control center mine, an entire desert operation run from a city. And the cabless truck, the seat deleted from the blueprint itself. 8 machines, 1 pattern, and 1 stubborn fact underneath all of it. Every one of these was adopted first in the places that kill people. Demolition, underground, the dump crests, ultra-class haulage. The machines did not take the safe jobs first. They took the deadly ones. Whatever happens next, that part of the story deserves to be told straight. Now, the fight I promised. Side 1, this is the best thing to happen to heavy equipment in a century. The skills survive, the paychecks move to air-conditioned control rooms, the fatality statistics collapse toward 0, and nobody's family gets the worst phone call in the industry ever again. Side 2, something real is being lost, and something dangerous is being started. The feel of the machine through the seat, the craft passed hand to hand, the mining towns whose economies were built on operator jobs that now sit in a distant city, and a future where more efficient quietly becomes fewer humans, full stop. Safer future, or hollowed out trade. Pick your side in 1 sentence in the comments. And operators, active or retired, tell us your machine and your years in the seat, because this is your debate more than anyone's. And if you want the full story of the one place where this went furthest, The desert where the trucks, the drills, and the trains drive themselves, and what happened to the towns around it. That is a future video. Subscribe so you do not miss it. New video every week.